Hi everybody, my name is Tandiwe. I'm also known as Hey Tandy on the interwebs, and I'm really excited to be bringing you guys this energy forecast for the month of February. And when I went into my meditative state, there were two things that I really wanted to be clear about. And one is what the themes and the energies are, but then also how to practicalize it, how to make it make sense, like to ground it in this reality, because I've just observed in the spiritual community how there's this sort of thing where we chase altered states of consciousness, and we chase the bliss, and we chase the high, and we chase the realizations, the aha moments, but we don't ground those downloads, we don't ground that energy, we don't integrate it, and then it leaves just as quickly as it came. You know, and my dad has this saying, he says, states are free, but stages are earned. And what I feel he meant by that is that states, these altered states of consciousness, those are free. Those are part of the journey, man. Like, those are like the, hallelujah, you know? But stages, levels are earned. And I feel like the key to leveling up is to apply the divine knowledge and make the transformations, walk that path. And then when you get to the other side, then, you know, that's when you level up, I feel. But yeah, so I really wanted to approach these forecasts with that mindset, with that idea that we're gonna divine these energies, but we're gonna link them and make them practical, so that we can actually use them, because this is medicine, right? Right. Anyways, I was in the meditative state, and the word that came up is courage. And boy, that just hit me on so many levels. But courage. Like, we need to embody courage to move to another level, right? And February is that month for that, grounding this idea of courage. So I made a drawing, and I'm gonna redraw this and paint this, but for the sake of today, I'm gonna show you the original sketch, the original one. And as you can see, it's a girl with her lion. It's a girl with her lion. And when I was in a conversation with one of my sister friends, I showed her this picture, and she was like, oh my god, Tandy, it looks like, she was like, did you notice that the girl is the only one with color, and the lion is completely black and white? And she was like, the way I'm picking it up is like the lion is in the spiritual realm and she's over here. And I'm like, yeah. And you know, like, maybe because I never had an intention when I was drawing, it's only afterwards that when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, okay. So it was almost like a tarot card for me too, like, what is my psychic, what am I picking up psychically? But she said that, and I'm like, yeah. And you know, he protects her, he's part of her spirit team, and he's her backup. This is what I said. I'm like, he's her backup. And my friend was like, I don't feel it that way. And I'm like, okay, tell me what you're picking up. And she's like, I feel like the shift that we're having now, and the conversation that we're having, the lion is no longer the backup. The lion is the core, is her core. And I was like, wait, holla. Wait a minute. Mind blown. Like, I had to come back to self for a second. I was like, wait. And she was absolutely right. And that is that integration, that whole idea of, I'm not going to call on you just when I'm in trouble. I'm going to keep you in the core of me so that I can never doubt your existence. Like, you're here. Like, you're like, you know, you're a part of me. You're not outside of me where I need to call on you. You're not a strength that is not a part of me. Your strength is my strength. So that just blew my mind. And I was like, okay, so I have to link this idea that, I had to link this core idea to courage. And then I had another conversation with another sister friend of mine, and we're talking about anime and some of our favorite animes with the underdogs. I don't know if you've noticed, but they're always willing to walk the path of transformation as long as they can fulfill what it is their core need is, and that's usually like to protect. Like if you think of like a Bleach, a Rurouni Kenshin, I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head right now, but I can't. But if you think about those two animes, it's like in Bleach, Ichigo wants to protect, initially it's Rukia, and then later on it's the girl with the orange hair, but he's not powerful. He's powerful, but he's not skilled yet. He's clumsy, but still, and he takes so many L's, but he still continues forward, and he still walks that path of transformation because he wants to protect his friends. He wants to protect his family. He wants to protect his town. Rurouni Kenshin is the same concept. He wants to protect Japan from the villain that wants to take over Japan, whatever. But but the idea is that these people are willing to even die and come back to life just for the sake of their core value, which is to protect the ones that they love. So it made me think, like, okay, what are my core values? What are your core values? What are those core values that you need the courage to protect, or you need the courage to express, or you need the courage to experience? Like, we want to extrovert, is that a word? We want to externalize the core that is within us. And that often takes courage because our conditioning tells us to ignore those core values to make your surroundings and your environment happy. Yeah, so it's like, what are those core values? What is your essential self? What is it that you are willing to reach beyond fear for in order to express, in order to experience, in order to protect? What are those things? That's food for thought for February. What do you feel like those things are for you? Because I feel like once you, and most of the time it's not just identifying them. I was about to say once you identify them, it's easier to work with them, but we know what these things are. Sometimes it's just a matter of just maybe reminding ourselves what those core values are. For me, it's kindness, it's service, it's family, it's friendship, it's connection, it's love. Those are the things that are really important to me, and that's the foundation that I build my reality upon. And I'm lucky enough that, because I guess maybe if I've been doing it for so long, or it's grace, I don't know what, I can't say for sure, but I am lucky that I have that reflected back to me in my support system, in the people that choose to love me back, and the people that choose to support me back, and that choose to be kind to me back, and that become a part of my community in that way. Yeah, so I have those are my core values. Those are the things that oh my god, there's all these butterflies right now, and I think there's like a butterfly migration happening, and it's just so beautiful, and it's just so on point and just so on time, because I feel like transformation is inevitable, but transformation is what we need the courage for. It's because we want to get from here to here. That's what courage is about. Courage is always, it's I feel like it's that thing that we need that's gonna push us beyond our self-imposed limitations sometimes. But I'm digressing. Bring it back, Tandy. Yes, the core values. Also understanding the power that is in those core values. Because when you acknowledge the core of who you are, your essential self, when you acknowledge the thing that's beyond your conditioning, the first shakeup is really, it's uncomfortable, because oftentimes when these transformational hits come, we're often living lives that are not aligned with the transformation. That's why the transformation has to happen. So the original life that we've created now is like shaken up, and the biggest thing I feel like is it's in your behavior, and it's in your feelings. So maybe before this transformational hit came, you accepted things that now, when you have this core within you, you find those things disgusting, you find those things unacceptable, you find those things like horrible. and it causes like this cognitive dissonance, because there's a part of you, there's a life that you lived where you accepted these things, and now this is no longer the case. And oftentimes when we have these negative and uncomfortable emotions, especially in this spiritual community, we suppress them. We're like, oh no, love and light, positivity only, positivity only. Unconditional love, I'm not going to put myself in that vibration. But I roll my eyes, but I've been there too. So honestly, no heat, no judgment. But I think what happens when you get this transformational impulse, it becomes uncomfortable, because now the things that, it's like you have to, you're like, oh, I don't want to be negative, but that negativity is informing you of what it is that you care about now. So like you can be resisting this thing of like, oh, I don't want to be the mean person, I don't want to be whatever, but you're failing to really acknowledge what's actually being said, which is, I don't like it when I'm treated this way. I don't like it when I see this in the world. That's the other thing. We get so far removed from our world when you start this journey of awakening, and sometimes you can be so ungrounded that you don't have a proper frame of reference to work with. And so again, certain things become acceptable, or you feel like, oh, I'm just exiting the matrix, so I don't give a fuck what happens in the world. And then you ignore these impulses that tell you that children being sick and dying that's not right, or people being oppressed and abused around the world, that's not right. Or, you know, when you find these countries where girls are not allowed to go to school and they're forced to get married young, and the complications and the dangers of that life, those things are wrong, period, right? But sometimes you get into these spaces mentally and spiritually where you're like, well, it's just the matrix, and maybe it's their karma, or it's some bullshit. Like, you know, people just come up with the craziest shit. You ignore those impulses inside of you that are disgusted and horrified and devastated by what it is that you're seeing. And I feel like part of this transformation is to stop ignoring those impulses, to stop ignoring those feelings just because they're uncomfortable and they're negative, because they're informing you of what is not acceptable. You see, because if you like ignore these things, right, because they're out there, it's people's karma, it's whatever, you will ignore it when it's in front of you, and then you won't even, like, it's like you won't step up and step into what it is that you're supposed to do in order to make those things better. I don't think that you can save the world, but you can absolutely be of service to the people that are living in the time and space that you're living in. I think that is possible, and I think it's a realistic goal. You're not going to save the world, no, but you can make your corner of the world better each and every day. But yeah, so like when it comes to courage and the core, I feel like we are resistant to our essential self because it's going to bring these changes, and a big part of it is just accepting these changes, just accepting that you're feeling these negative emotions for these things, because your essential self knows what is resonant and what is right and what is fair. And I know we sometimes want to avoid that and sort of like, oh, there's no right or wrong, really, there's no, you know, that's such a slippery slope. That's such a slippery slope, because I've also noticed like being spiritually powerful has nothing to do with morality. So I think that's the thing where you're like, oh, there's no such thing as right and wrong, but we should have our own sense of moral compass. I'm not saying it has to be religion, I'm not saying it has to be a specific spiritual practice. I'm not going to give you you know, a guideline in that sense, because that is something that should be personally defined by you, but you should define it. You should know what is acceptable and what's not to you. How else are you gonna create boundaries? The fuck? And speaking of boundaries, how do you protect those boundaries without courage? Courage is because creating boundaries is a scary thing, because it always comes with conflict, because people are used to treating you a certain way. People are used to things being acceptable in some kind of way. And so for you to challenge that just by being it's a scary thing. And that's why that courage is so necessary, because you have to create those boundaries at the end of the day. You have to grow in that way, and you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to protect yourself. Like, those are things that are just like necessary to move in this life in a way that is going to be fulfilling. You know what I'm saying? See, notes. Having the courage to protect your core values. Yes, so I mentioned earlier about with the animes, like when we think about Ichigo and Bleach, like his whole story arc, he's constantly coming so close to death, constantly reaching so far into his subconscious mind to keep reaching for this power so that he can protect his people and defeat whoever the villain is. And like, I think my friend actually mentioned this in our conversation, but she was like, where there's a part where Ichigo goes under for the last battle, and he dies, right? And he can sense that he's dead, but he somehow comes back. What's the girl's name? The girl with the orange hair, with the butterflies and things. She's like screaming his name, and he hears it from his subconscious mind, and he's like, oh God, I gotta wake up, I gotta protect her. And that, like, imagine being dead, right? Like you're dead, you're like, okay, I'm defeated, but then there's that core that's still there, and like Ichigo still had that core that allowed him to pull himself back from the hands of death and come back to the land of the living and rescue his friend and go back to his town and to live a normal life once more. But but that core is so powerful. That core is what you will travel with once you're no longer on this earth. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the part of you that continues to exist even beyond this flesh, that you need to connect to that and be willing to protect that, and to be willing to express that, and to be willing to experience that. I really feel like that's part of why we hear these butterflies are just so beautiful. Oh my goodness, transformation is here, baby. It's really important not to deny what you think and what you feel. It is super important not to deny what you think and what you feel. And this is gonna take courage, because our conditioning makes us deny certain things so that we can be safe. Denial, lying, deceit, that pretending, all of that is a safety. It's a coping mechanism. It's a safety thing. It's I need to do this to protect myself. Now I feel like we're being asked to protect ourselves by being true, protect ourselves by being real, and to stop allowing the deceit, the denial, the lies to corrupt our essential selves, to corrupt who we truly are. So now we have to flip the way we see that and put our energy behind true protection. Lies are false protection. You're not really protected, and you've betrayed yourself, because when you're lying to others, you're lying to yourself. Period. But you know, we have to shift that mindset so that we understand, like, let telling the truth become your new coping mechanism. Like, you know what, I'm gonna drive myself crazy if I lie. So I'm gonna tell the truth. Like, I'm gonna cause so much drama if I lie, so let me tell the truth. Because if someone catches me out later, it's gonna be so embarrassing, so let me tell the truth. Like, rewire that constantly until the new thing feels normal. Okay, so there's two things that came up, and they're interlinked. And one is trusting your gift and rising to the occasion of leadership. Okay, so let me like try and articulate this. So, to lack doubt is not arrogant, but it often is perceived that way. Funny enough, in the conversation with my friend, I was like, no, we were talking about something else, and I was like, I don't doubt my skills. I don't doubt my talent. I have it. And she was like, okay, girl, well, talk your shit. And I'm like, no, for real, I know that sounded so arrogant. Oh my God. But I mean it. Like, I mean every word. Shout out to Ari Lennox. No, I was like, I don't doubt that I have the skill. I don't doubt that I have the talent. I've practiced long enough to know that it's there. But I was lacking the courage to put it out in the world. That's where, me personally, that's the path I'm walking on. But I don't doubt my talent. I don't doubt my gift, because it was given to me by God. God put these dreams in me. I don't doubt that part. And it's not arrogant, I don't think. I know it sounds arrogant, and I even felt that too. I was like, ooh. But it's not arrogant. It's because it's not coming from ego. It's coming from my core. It's coming from the part of me that's connected to something that's beyond me, that tells me that I have this gift, right? And we all have gifts. We all have that thing that is inside us that just needs to be pulled out so that we can offer it to the world. It's really important to trust that your gift is going to show up and to call on your gift to show up every day. Like, make that a practice. Like, when you're sitting in front of your computer and you're like, oh, I'm going to write, call on your gift. Sitting in front of the computer and you're going to fucking draw, or you're going to record music, or maybe it's not even something in the arts. Maybe it's you're an engineer, maybe it's you're a mathematician, maybe it's you're a teacher, but you know that that's your gift. You can call on that gift and you can create experiences that are transformational within your circumference. And part of that is accepting your leadership role. Accepting your leadership role, accepting standing up for what you believe is right and what you believe you need to share with the world. When you're a leader, you have those core values and you are guided by those core values, and you walk a path of your own creation based on those core values, and you have to have an element of leadership for that. You have to accept that you're a leader in some kind of way. Now, that may not look like what you may traditionally think of as leadership. You may think of leadership as, oh, the leader is the CEO. But that's not the case. Like, you can be a leader amongst your colleagues. You can be a leader amongst your gym friends. You can be a leader amongst your family, your friends. And you can lead in a way that's unique to you. This doesn't mean you have to tell people what to do. This doesn't mean that you have to have an ego trip and think like, oh, you're the best. Like, you're the best and nobody, and like everybody else is your sons, or some shit like that. Like, you don't have to go that far. It's just about your actions and how they influence the people around you. So, to give you an example, it's so funny because in this example, I recognize that this is where I like really had to come to terms with the fact that while service is not always glamorous, it's not always blissful, but it is fulfilling. That I had a moment at home where I guess some things came up in terms of like, oh, we need someone to run around and do some things, right? And I had not prepared to be running around to do shit. Like, I was gonna be here at home drawing or some shit, and when I was looking at everybody in the room, I'm like, there's nobody else who's gonna do this, so I have to offer. And I wasn't happy about it. I was like, damn it, like, my time is not my own. Like, I was mad about it a little bit, a teeny bit. I'm a little bit of a spoiled brat sometimes, but I was like, fuck, okay, fine. So I offered to help. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. It's cool, I can do it. I got a car, I can run around. And at the time, I didn't realize that my sister and my niece were watching me. Later on, when I just noticed that they were more willing to help, more willing to be of service, even though there was nothing in it for them. Like, I wasn't bribing them to do anything. They were just like, oh yeah, I can do that for you. Yeah, I can do that for you. And it was like it hit me when I saw them. I'm like, wait, where did that come from? And it's like they were watching it and they picked up on it, and they were like, oh, okay, so even if you don't get an immediate reward for it, it's good to help. It's a good thing to be helpful. And I was like, okay, so that's how this leadership thing works. It's not about the immediate reward. It's not about the egoic reward. It's about the impact. It's about the impact that you leave on others, and it's about improving the quality of the people you love's life. You know, so when my sister helps me with cooking when I didn't ask her to, she's improving the quality of my life because I don't feel as overwhelmed. And she picked up on that, like, with something that I did not have control over, not in the traditional sense. Like, I wasn't stepping into that, oh, I'm a role model and they're gonna see my example, and like, it wasn't like that. Like, I was literally reluctant. I didn't want to do it. So I say all that to say that acts of leadership are acts of service, and you can have those acts in any social group, whether it's your workplace, your gym, your home, your family, or wherever you are. When you're willing to help, it doesn't mean that you're happy, doesn't mean that you're blissful, doesn't mean it's glamorous, it doesn't mean that, you know, you're constantly in this hallelujah moment when you're helping, but just the willingness, the core willingness to extend yourself and impact people positively, that's an act of leadership. And I think that part of this courage is to, part of this theme, the energy that I'm picking up on, is to accept the leadership roles when they're given to you. So if you're in a workplace and someone, like maybe one colleague is treating another colleague terribly, and you feel some kind of way, like you're not kind of about it, you know it's wrong, but then you're like, none of my business, it's none of my business. Don't do that. Don't do that. That February is not the month for that. And I mean, use Aquarius season. Everybody talks about how Aquarius is so arrogant and so obnoxious and so whatever. Bitch, be that. If it means that, like, you are fighting for what is right, and you're fighting for what you believe to be true and what you believe is a part of your core value. Now, I'm not saying start conflicts, and I'm not saying start dramas, and I'm not saying be in your ego and confront people and do all those things, but just be clear. Like, if you're seeing something that you don't like and you have the opportunity, whether it is to speak life into the person who was hurt, or whether it is that you can see the opportunity to talk some sense into the person who's hurting another person, do it. Have the courage. Call on that courage. Call on that lion. Call on that core of you that believes that to be true. So, because it's just, every time you ignore those things, it's like you're eroding away at your essential self. I feel like that's what we're shifting from, and I think that that's what this month is going to be teaching us in a lot of ways. One last thing. I have a question that I wrote here. So the question is, what about your behavior changes when you think of yourself as a representative of your core values? Let's say you have these core values, and these core values, right, are an institution, the institution of you. There you go. Now you're in the institution of you, and you have these core values that represent this institution, and then you are now a representative of that institution to the globe. You need to let everybody know about the institution of you and your core values. How does your behavior change after that? What changes do you feel like you make because you now represent that? I really want y'all to think about that and choose 3 things. Just choose 3 things that have to change in order to accommodate these core values, and see if you can apply them on a daily basis. Whether it's, my core value is respecting people's time, so I'm not gonna be late. Like, I'm gonna make a commitment to not be late. I'm gonna be 15 minutes early to every meeting, every event, every whatever, and apply that. Literally, like, check your GPS every day to make sure that you arrive on time. These days with Waze and shit, you can plan your journeys, and they extrapolate all the information from traffic, and they know exactly what time you're gonna arrive there as long as you tell it. Like, it calculates all of that shit. So, for example, so like, you can like commit to that. So or if whatever it is your core value is, I don't want to make a bunch of examples, because the whole point is for you to find out for yourself and make those changes, apply those changes, use courage, call on that courage. Remember that your lion, your metaphorical lion, is your core, and it has to push you to do the things that you are here to do, to impact in the way that you're supposed to impact, to experience the things that you're supposed to experience. You can apply this in a multitude of ways. Like, that's why I'm trying not to give too many examples, because I don't want to box these concepts into what I can come up with. Do you know what I'm saying? I hope that I've articulated these things as well as possible, and that you can go home and think about this and figure out how you want to apply this. But that's what I've picked up for the month of February. There's a bunch of things in my life that I have a sense of fear about, and trepidation, and just unsurety, and like, oh, it's gonna happen, how's it gonna happen, and like wanting to know the hows, but the how isn't my job. That's not my work. My work is to have the courage to do what's in front of me and to serve in my community, whether it's in my home or in the world, my community at large. And and thinking about that is actually shifting the way I move too. Cause I asked myself, I'm like, how do I serve my community? We're going through so many things. People are sick, people are poor, people are in debt, people are mentally ill, people, like, so much is happening in the world, and it's irresponsible for us in the spiritual community to ignore those things. Now, I don't think we need to take on the weight of the world, but I don't think we have to ignore them either. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I can't save every girl that's being human trafficked, or I can't save these girls that are being kidnapped. I'm in South Africa. It's a big thing right now. But I have a community that I can impact. I have a bunch of people who are connected to my energy through soul tribes who benefit from my medicine, who benefit from me being whole and impacting the world in that way. And now that I'm thinking about it, it just makes me a lot more responsible. It makes me a lot more compassionate. It makes me a lot more kinder. And it just makes me a lot more mindful. I encourage you to really identify your core values and act like it's your core and not your backup. Like, it's not something that you reach for only when you're in trouble. It's something that you reach for when you're moving in life. It's the foundation. It's the rules of engagement. It's the structure that you create. It's the boundaries that you create, that you flow through, right? Because when you think about flow, and I could use a river for example, like the water is flowing, but there's earth right there that's keeping it a river instead of an ocean. There are boundaries. So it's not that you stop flowing when you create structure and boundaries. It's that you're channeling it a lot more effectively. I think that is all for today. If you have reached the end with me, thank you so much. I appreciate your presence. I really do hope that I have been the medicine that you were looking for. And if not, maybe next time. So that's the energy forecast for February. It's courage, it's leadership, it's not being afraid of your core values and not ignoring your core values anymore, and figuring out how you're going to create your life with your core. So be encouraged. I know this world can be very discouraging. It can take a lot out of you. It can erode away at you, but be encouraged. Just know that there are a lot of us who are anchoring what is coming, and that we are here for you. We're part of your soul tribe. You're not alone. You have it in you. There's an awesome power that lives within you, that wants to be expressed and that wants to be experienced, and it is your divine birthright to have that and to experience that. And don't forget that. I love you all. Until next time. Bye.